boys and girls, it's story time. Today's story, because I'm wearing my pumpkin shirt, and it's Halloween, we're going to read Jimmy and Joe Meet a Halloween Witch. This story is by Sally Glendening. I wonder if it's going to be spooky. Guess we'll see. Today is Halloween, Jimmy said to Joe. Let's walk backwards on our way home. If we walk backwards, we may see a witch, Joe said. The boys walked backwards down the street. What are you doing? A man called to them. We're looking for a Halloween witch, Joe told the man. Jimmy said, we read a story about a little boy. He saw a witch when he walked backwards on Halloween. We want to see a witch too. The boys took a shortcut through a vacant lot. Big trees grew on that lot. Maybe an old witch would fly down from a tree, Jimmy said to Joe. A squirrel in a tree dropped an acorn. The acorn hit Joe on the head. Look out, Joe shouted. A bad old witch hit me with an acorn. Jimmy laughed and laughed. That was a squirrel, he said. Soon the boys came to a little house. Nobody lived in the house for a long, long time. Someone lived there now. A woman stood in the doorway. She was holding a broom. Hello, boys, she said. Do you live nearby? Yes, ma'am, the boy said. Tonight's the night for Halloween trick-or-treat, the woman told them. Please come to see me. The boys said they would come to trick-or-treat. Then they walked home. Jimmy sat in the swing. Joe sat on the ground. Maybe she's a witch, Joe said to Jimmy. She was holding a broom, Jimmy told Joe. Witches fly through the air on a broom. Maybe she's a bad witch, said Joe. What will happen when we go there tonight? Soon it was dark. Joe's mother helped the boys dress up for Halloween. Here are the clown suits I made for you, she told Jimmy and Joe. Jimmy's suit was red and blue. Joe's suit was yellow and green. They put on the suits. They put long clown caps on their heads. Here are 2 paper bags for your treats, Joe's mother told them. Jimmy had a flashlight to light the way. Be careful, boys, Joe's mother called. The night was dark and the wind howled. Ooh. Something yelled, meow, and ran out in front of them. Jimmy turned on his flashlight. Why, it's only a cat, Jimmy laughed. It sounded like a lion, whispered Joe. The lights were on in the house next door. Let's go there, Jimmy said. They walked up the steps and rang the doorbell. The man came to the door. Trick or treat, the boys cried. Happy Halloween, the man said. He held a big basket filled with candy. He gave each boy some candy from the basket. Jimmy and Joe walked down the long street. They saw a big goblin and 3 little ghosts. The ghosts were little girls in long white sheets. The goblin was their mother. One boy was dressed up like a big fat pumpkin. Another boy wore a Batman suit. Jimmy and Joe went from door to door for trick-or-treat. What fun they had. Halloween is fun, and trick-or-treating is the best. Many lights were on at the yellow house. There were lights in the trees, around the house. A big witch with a broom was by the steps. She wore a black dress. She had on a tall black hat. Jimmy and Joe tiptoed near the witch. They began to laugh. This witch was made of paper. "We're not afraid of her." A man stood in a doorway at a house. Near him was a tub of water. There were apples in the water. "Trick or treat," cried Jimmy and Joe. "I have a treat for you," the man said. "You may have an apple, but you must first get the apple with your teeth." "Bobbing for apples?" the boys shouted. Each boy, they got an apple. Soon the boys came to the vacant lot. "Now we must go see the real witch," Joe said to Jimmy. They sat on the ground near a street light to eat their apples. "We have to go," Jimmy said. "We told the witch that we would come to see her." The wind blew and white paper across the dark path. The boys started to walk across the vacant lot. Jimmy's flashlight went out. "I'm scared," whispered Joe. "So am I," said Jimmy. The wind blew the leaves down from the trees. "I see a light at the witch's house," whispered Jimmy. The yellow light was from the jack-o'-lantern in the living room. The front door, it was open. The boys walked slowly up to the steps. Jimmy rang the doorbell. "Come in, boys," someone called from the back of the house. They looked into the dark hall. Something looked at them. It had big yellow eyes that shone in the dark. "Ooh," said the something. "What's that?" whispered Jimmy. "I don't know," Joe whispered. "Come, boys," the voice called. Jimmy and Joe ran into the living room. The jack-o'-lantern, it was on the table. A big cat jumped from a chair to the floor. The cat had no tail. "A witch's cat!" cried Jimmy. The big cat hopped across the floor. "Hippity-hop, hippity-hop," whispered. "It hops like a rabbit," whispered Joe. "Come here, boys," someone called from the next room. "Come into the kitchen." They walked into the kitchen. The woman stood by the stove. "Hello, boys," she said. "I have a big surprise for you." She opened the oven door. "She's going to put us in the oven," yelled Joe. "Let's go home," cried Jimmy. "Don't be scared," the woman said. She took 2 big pies from the oven. "I made a pumpkin pie for each of you," she told the boys. Something said, "Woo," and flew into the kitchen. It was a big bird with 2 horns on its head. It had yellow eyes. Jimmy and Joe hid under the table. "This is my pet owl," said the woman. "I found him in the woods with a broken wing. Now he can fly." "He has horns," cried Joe. "Those are not real horns," laughed the woman. "Those horns are made of feathers." "Let's go into the living room," the woman said. The boys followed the woman. "We're scared of your cat," Jimmy said. "It must be a witch's cat," the woman laughed. "This is a Manx cat," she said. "Manx cats are born without any tails. Their back legs are longer than their front legs, so they hop when they walk." The boys played with the pets. Let's eat some pie before we go home, Jimmy said to Joe. We looked for a witch, and we found a new friend, they told the woman. Tomorrow, we'll tell everyone that you make good pumpkin pie. And I think the moral to this story is we shouldn't jump to conclusions when we first meet someone. Good night, boys and girls.